critically important in my eyes, but it's going to be even more important in the future. And they're trying to stack as much of it as they can at these prices because they have a belief that ETH is going to go much higher than what it is today, and they know that they're running out of time to buy because, like, I think they fully understand that once ETH breaks above 4K, that's when things really get going. And then all-time high is just like a nice cherry on top there. So that I think, you know, objectively proves that ETH is a store of value and objectively proves to the wider ecosystem that it is and works to act as fuel for the wider kind of, I guess, like outside of crypto ecosystems to keep buying ETH, because now ETH is valued like they're valuing BTC. Now ETH is a store of value. And I am confident in saying that ETH, on that barbell that I've talked about before, the tech evolving store of value barbell, I'm very confident in saying that ETH is in the store of value section now, just kind of permanently. I don't think we're going back. I don't think we're going back to evolving, and I don't think we're ever going back to just being valued as a tech kind of DCF revenue generating platform. I think ETH is a store of value. I think it's going to stay there. And I think it's just going to get stronger over time. And I do still believe in the flippening, guys. I do still believe that ETH is going to be worth more than BTC one day. And, you know, I don't know when that day is going to come. It's always been a long-term thesis, but I do believe that to be the case. And we'll see. You know, I'd never given up hope on the flippening. It's just, obviously, it's less popular to say this when, you know, like in April than it is today, but I've always believed in it. But it's a long-term thing. So saying it on crypto Twitter, people come at me and being like, oh, that's never going to happen. It's like, guys, like, I'm looking 10 years out. Like, I'm not looking tomorrow or next month or even next year. I'm looking 10 years out here. So maybe it doesn't happen anytime soon, but I do believe that it will eventually happen. And you bet your ass if it ever happens, I will be there collecting, you know, I will be collecting my clout. That's for sure, because I've been calling for this since 2017. But anyway, enough on that. Let's move on to the network part of things. So, as you guys know, I think I've got a tweet here. The Ethereum gas limit is now at 45 million. So we increased the gas limit again. Great, awesome, love to see it. But that's not the end of where we're going. 45 million is only one step on the journey. So Storm here from Paradigm kind of tweeted out an ETH gas limit roadmap of how he sees things playing. So in from 2021 to Q3 of, I believe, in Q3 of 2021, the gas limit was 30 million. In Q1 of this year, it was 36 million. In Q3 of now, basically now, it's 45 million. And then he expects us to get to 100 million in Q1 of next year. And then by Q2 next year, get to 300 million. So you can see like how we're stepping things up here. If we get to 300 million by Q2 of next year, which admittedly is pretty aggressive, but we'll see if we can get there. That's a 10x increase of where we were at the start of this year. So that's a 10x increase in 18 months. That is an order of magnitude increase in 18 months. So we're aiming for the skies here, guys. And obviously we're aiming to get to gigagas, but I don't know if that's going to happen in 2026. I would wager it's not going to happen until 2027, probably at the earliest. Because as Tomas mentions here, he even feels that 300 million can only come with a ZK VM. But, you know, maybe we were able to push to that. But even if we only get to 100 million, that's still a pretty big increase. It's over a 3x increase from where we were at the start of the year. So, yeah, we'll see kind of what happens there. But I figured that was worth kind of highlighting where we're at with the gas limit today. And I guess in relation to the gas limit is EPBS. Now, this is something that's been talked about a lot over the last week on crypto Twitter, because you can see here, actually, I've got the order of the tweets wrong here. Let me have a look. Yeah, so EPBS has a bit of drama surrounding it right now. So there is concerns, especially from people who work on the kind of MEV side of things with Ethereum, that by doing EPBS, we introduce something called the free option problem, which is like, I mean, in terms of understanding what the free option problem is, you probably need to read the post that was put out by the Flashbots crew, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But Mike Noida here has a really great tweet thread on this as well, and why he considers that the free option problem to be a pretty severe issue with EPBS. But then Potas, who's been a champion of EPBS, has basically put out a counter tweet thread to this saying that we shouldn't let the free option problem, I guess, like stop EPBS from going forward, which you should read as well. I'll link that in the YouTube description below. But from my understanding, essentially what the free option problem is because EPBS extends out the time that block builders have to or I guess like searchers have to construct a block, it means that they are incentivized in some cases to actually delay a block, so not publish a block, because it's more profitable for them to withhold that in order to get a more profitable block after. So that's my understanding of it. I'm probably butchering the explanation because this gets quite technical here, but the main concern is, from like a high level, is that ePBS could lead to more missed slots on the network, which would lead to network degradation, because in the worst case, it could lead to tens of % of missed slots and across the network, because of the fact that it's more profitable to do this kind of, I guess, a free option, they call it here, which means that network, I guess, like stability goes down, network user experience goes down, and it kind of counteracts the ePBS UX improvements. But Potas here, well as some others, argue that the free option problem, while it exists and while it is potentially hard to solve for, it's something that maybe only exists in the worst case scenarios. And at the same time, it also requires these builders to be kind of malicious. And if they're being malicious, then there's also the option of, I guess, like searches and, going to other builders, or people publicly shaming or socially shaming these kind of entities, or these entities not just getting order flow anymore because they're just harming the network. And I guess, like, in the longer run, it actually becomes less profitable for them to do this, because by hurting the network, they're hurting the adoption of the network, and they're hurting the potential profit opportunities they get later on. So there's a lot that goes into this. And I don't know if it's going to be a showstopper for ePBS. There's a lot of discussions around other things right now outside of that, because there are discussions around like what we actually want to go into Glamsterdam, and nothing has been slated for inclusion yet, or there's lots of things being considered for inclusion, but nothing has been slated for inclusion yet. So I suggest you read these threads, because they'll give you a good highlight of what's going on there. But on that topic of Glamsterdam kind of EIPs here, there's also another EIP called 7928, which is the block level access list EIP, or BALS. Now, this is one that a lot of people are in favor of. This is done on the execution layer side of things, so it doesn't actually conflict with ePBS or Fossil, which is on the consensus layer side, or shortening the slot times, which is also on the consensus layer side. But Tony was recently DMing me and kind of pilled me on BALS here, and basically said that, BALS are awesome for various different reasons. And he actually put out a tweet basically breaking this down. So essentially what BALS do is they unlock reliable parallelism on Ethereum. So he tweeted out saying, BALS are enforced block-wide access list recording every account touched and state differentials, storage keys, balances, nonces, and code during execution. So no more guesswork. Clients know upfront what to load and how best to parallelize these kind of transactions here. So the primary benefit is that we get that perfect parallelism. So with explicit mappings, disk IO and EVM execution plus state root calculations become fully parallelizable. This cuts worst case block validation latency. Faster block validation equals higher throughput for all Ethereum users. Secondary wins is that we get execution-less state transition updates, such as ZK clients, pre-execution analysis with inclusion lists and warm-ups, and sync optimizations and improvements for partial stateless nodes. So there seems to be a lot of positives here and no negatives. I don't know if there's any kind of negatives besides potentially increasing the bandwidth requirements for nodes if this is introduced. But generally, we already know that bandwidth requirements are going to go up across the network for various different reasons anyway. And I don't think that should be a blocker for this being included. So if I was to redo my tier list kind of ranking again, I would put BALS up at probably S tier at this point. And in my ideal Glamsterdam, I would love to see ePBS, Fossil, shortened slot times, and BALS. We're not going to get all of that in Glamsterdam. That's like my S tier kind of list there, but we're not getting that in Glamsterdam, all of them. So if I had to choose, if I really had to choose, I would say BALS and ePBS or shorter slot times. Fossil, ideally, yes, but the thing is with Fossil is that it can't just be put into the next fork. Like, I would love to, this is the thing, I actually brought this up with Tony as well, is that my concern with Fossil is that I don't want it like getting punted to the next upgrade and they're not getting included. I don't want it becoming EOF. Obviously very different things, but I'm talking about the the fact that like I don't want it getting dropped because there's other things that people want to get into the next fork after Glamsterdam. That's why I wanted to prioritize it for Glamsterdam. But if we can get Bells and EPBS and potentially shorter slot times, I don't know if they were both going to happen at the same time. But if we can get those, that'd be huge. That'd be definitely very, very huge. Fossil can come later, but I would like to see it in the network, obviously, there. But you can go give Tony's tweet a read for yourself. He also links to an Ethereum Magicians post which talks about this more. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so speaking of kind of what's been happening in core dev world recently, so Pota has put out a bull post about Ethereum, which I found to be kind of, I guess, like hitting different because core devs don't really bull post that often. They tend to post things that are technically correct and technically accurate, but they don't really like bull post like, I guess, you know, I do, for example, right? It's more like in the weeds, talking about things that excites them, but doesn't really excite the average person because they don't understand it. But like Proto's put a tweet out here where he said 2 forks ago, we didn't have cheap L2 transactions, but 2 forks from now, we will have perfect parallelization of execution, orders of magnitude more gas limit, orders of magnitude more blobs, and better censorship resistance. It's a no-brainer that TradFi is trying to tap into Ethereum. Now, I'll break down each of these and why he's saying this. So the first point here, the perfect parallelization of Ethereum execution obviously comes from block access lists, which I was just talking about. Orders of magnitude more gas limit. I talked about kind of Storm's gas limit roadmap before. If we get to 300 million in 2 hard forks time, which I think we can do before